to connecting families within the foster care system. So as far as the key points, this is what I will be discussing today. I will be describing the family connection in service, giving you the purpose and the goals for the project, any site contributions, any core concepts, the research and the evidence for the family connection, and then also the outcomes. So as far as the family connection, I would be doing an in-service that would train and teach staff how to give out connection kits that are supposed to connect foster families together with the children they are fostering. I'm going to begin how child development is important and share some of my knowledge of child and family development and why it matters in the foster care field. After this in-service, families will be able to know how important they are to us. This is special because children come from trauma-enforced homes and they are already feeling all, if not most, emotions. So I would hope to bring them together to create memories and bonds to navigate their emotion to a positive feeling. And since I know a little bit more about developmental needs, I will be able to create each family connection kit specific to the child's needs. And every kit will be the same. Some kits would require like tips on how to connect with their children, games or fun ideas to create memories and bonds with their child, and also either like a flash or nightlight for the child if they're afraid of the dark. The purpose of this project is to educate staff and volunteers the importance of child and family development and the goal of permanency and strengthening of foster care families. So as far as the goals for the project, I would hope to educate staff the importance of connection kits. I would hope they would learn the importance of child and family development. I would teach staff how to give away kits, and I would want to at least give away 5 kits. Some contributions that I hope to bring to CASA would be impacting children by having an item or items of their own so they can cherish. Impacting families in CASA care, giving them insight and tips on youth development, impacting policies and practices in the future, empowering staff to distribute connection kits. And I would want to see staff, I would want them to see the smiles and enjoyment on children and families' faces during this difficult time. Here I have listed some of the child and family development core concepts. I will be going over child development, as in changes in the foster care system, birth to 5 methods, which is explaining developmental appropriate activities for children, family life education, which is the importance of family life during this pandemic, diversity in human development, which would cover the diversity within the foster families, and also parent education and guidance, which would influence families and give them helpful tips to encourage family connection. So as far as child development, I have listed child development stages and also areas of child development. So as far as child development, it is the sequence of physical, thought, language, and emotional changes that occurs in a child from birth to beginning of adulthood. During child development, the child progresses from dependency on their parents or guardians to leaning towards independence. It is strongly influenced by genetic factors such as genes passed from their parents and events during prenatal life. The child development can be influenced by environmental factors and their learning capacity. So as far as the child development stages, I have listed Infant would be birth to 1, which a child is able to roll over, grasp a bottle, wave. They can hold their head up by this time. They can mouth their first words like dad or mom. And they can also start crawling by this time. Toddlers age listed 1 to 3. And by this time, they can walk. They're able to toilet train and learns the word no. As far as preschooler, their ages are listed 3 to 5. And they're right before the young school age, which by this time they can brush their hair, dress themselves, sing nursery rhymes, ride a tricycle, play cooperatively with others, and talk in sentences. And they also loves to pretend play. Then I have school age listed below, which they're more competitive within cooperative play. They're able to play board games and number games. They're more physical than a preschooler, which they can jump rope, hopscotch. They can ride their bikes. They're playing in organized sports. And also they're able to do crafts as well. For the areas of development I have listed, intellectual is when a child can create and develop thinking skills, such as comparing items together, such as comparing 2 oranges to 4 oranges. They understand like that the 4 oranges are more. As far as physical development is the muscle control and coordination, such as like skipping, knowing how to skip, run, and so forth. With social relationships, they're able to develop relationships with adults and other children, such as encouraging other children to like come play with them or giving them a toy. As far as emotional development, they're able to express and respond to emotions, such as seeing if their mother is sad. Like some children would go and hug their mother. So they're able to express and respond to emotions. At this time, I'm going to do a poll question.
Sorry, Shannon, are you doing the icebreaker one? Just so I get the right one up there.
The second one about development, the icebreaker, yes.
Oh. Hold on. My computer's not good. Okay. Everybody should see a poll on their screen. So if you could just click on the answer that you feel is correct. Or correct for you. Okay, so I'll go ahead and end the polling. And it looks like we're split down the middle. So about 50-50 know a lot about child development and also know some information about child development.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the Babies Can't Wait program. It is a Georgia early intervention program for families and infants and toddlers with developmental delays and disabilities. This program is for children birth to age 3, and the program works closely with physicians and healthcare providers to identify a child showing signs of developmental disabilities or delays during infancy, so they and their families may receive the critical support they need. It is important for a child to have the Babies Can't Wait assessment before coming into CASA care so we can know what needs, and services that we can provide for them. Also, the Children's First program is, it collaborates with families, healthcare providers, schools, and other agencies to identify children, and it's for birth to 5 years old. And these are for children who may be at risk for poor health outcomes and developmental delays. Children First link eligible children to early intervention services, as well as other public health programs and community-based resources. You can find out more information from the Babies Can't Wait and Children First program on the Department of Health for Georgia. So as for the CASA vision, it is a community where every child who has experienced abuse or neglect is given the opportunity to thrive in a loving and safe home. And with the Family Connection Kit, I hope to bring the families closer together to create bonds and memories to navigate towards positive experiences with a child, because I know that a child comes from a trauma-enforced home, and I would hope to bring the kit to help develop those positive experiences with the families. As the annual CASA report states that 274 children were served in 2019, and 72 of those cases were closed. 55% were unified with their parents, 28% were adopted, 13% received guardianship, and 4% turned 18 without permanency. While looking into the foster care field, I researched different attachment styles, and I have listed 4 different attachment styles below. And the attachment styles in children living in alternative care differ from those observed in living with biological or adoptive families. Several factors can mitigate this outcome. So the secure attachment style is when a child is distressed when the mom leaves, but it's easy to calm, and they greet mom warmly upon return. The avoidant attachment style is usually when a child ignores their mom when she returns and attaches to a stranger in the room. The resistant attachment style is when a child sends mixed messages. They want to be held, but resist mom's attempt to comfort them. And lastly, the disorganized attachment style is when a child is confused, disoriented, and fearful with mom. The disorganized attachment style is usually when a child has been abused and they're fearful. While researching these different attachment styles, I found that the secure attachment is the mostly used attachment globally in the foster care field. So aging out of foster care, each year, a youth age out of foster care with without a connection for a permanent and loving family. For this, aging out of foster care, I would talk about mental health, physical health, and the Adoption Acts of 2008. One second, I'm having difficulties. Okay, so aging out of foster care, a body research that connections with the family can reduce the risk of poor outcomes among youth in and exiting foster care, and it can enhance overall child well-being. How I've stated before, each year youth age out of foster care without connections to a permanent and loving home, examining the impact of placements with family on youth well-being and legal permanency among some youth who were in and out of care. More time placed with the family was associated with enhanced youth well-being. I researched that in 2017, globally, 440,000 children were in foster care, and many of those children were placed in a non-relative home. Children in foster care are found to be in poor in mental, physical health in comparison to their counterparts. Youth who age out at 18 with no stable connections to a permanent family or particularly vulnerable to poor outcomes, we found that they're less likely to graduate high school, they're unemployed, they experience homelessness, and have less earning potential than their others. As far as the Adoption Act of 2008, it mandated that states prioritize youth connection with family members, children, and ensure that no youth exit foster care without a permanent family. As this relates back to the family connection kits, I would want to create the bonds and the positive experience so it would be less likely for a child to exit out of the foster care system without any connections to a family, a loving family. So moving right along to mentoring relationships and the impact of volunteers. CASAs, they really help children who are in care or in foster care because they're like that parent-like role and they advocate more for the child. As far as coping strategies, it states that a quality relationship with a caring, non-parental adult, such as a mentor, may be one of the strategies to promote healthy coping among maltreated children. So moving along for tips for CASAs, when picking out the family connection kits, the developmentally appropriate toys is like when choosing an activity for a toy for a child, here are some good things to consider. Is the toy safe for the child? And is the toy appropriate for the child? What I mean by appropriate is there are many ages and developmental needs for the child. So I wouldn't give a bike to a 1-year-old because that's not developmentally appropriate. So giving and finding out the right fit for activities for the children will be also helpful to help them learn and grow. Some tips for the foster care parent. We can teach them the FIND model, which is a model for decision making. And it states that the F is for figuring out the problem, figuring out like what's wrong. The I is identifying all the possible solutions. So seeing like what can they do. With each solution, you can name the pros and cons of each solution. And then lastly, the D is to decide on the best possible solution and take action. Some more tips would be playing together as a family. It teaches children trust and how to take turns. So like how I stated before about developmental needs within the child and developmental areas, that they learn how to play cooperatively together. Playing together as a family can teach that. Also, setting limits for a child can give children expectations and self-control and acceptable behaviors. So they learn what is acceptable and what is not and learn from that. Also, I want to state that developmental milestones are used as a developing guide to help doctors and families. I know that I've listed the developmental milestones, but know that all children learn at different times. So just because at this age a child haven't reached this particular milestone doesn't mean that something is wrong with the child. That children learn different and they learn at different times. So it may come along, it just may take them more time to come across this milestone. So tips for connecting with the children. Foster parents can join a support group with other foster parents, because I feel like foster parents connecting with other foster parents they have that firsthand experience so they would know more about what worked and what might not work. They can also ask for help, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because I feel like if you ask for help, you get the help that you need early on. Bond with them and find out their likes. When you bond with the children and find out their likes, I feel like you're expressing that, you know, you're here for them, that you care about what they do. Finally, nights might help, such as like a family game night, you know, like a board game or any other games, you know, just talking and finding out what they like to do. Understand that children are faced with some sort of trauma. So it may take them a time to come and connect with you and to, understand that children face some sort of trauma. So it might be hard for them to connect right when they're with their foster family. You might just need to give them space and time, and that would come along. Also, let them explore who they are. Let them know and figure out that identity as well. Some evaluations that I plan to do to see if the Family Connection Kit works. Well, I did some posts throughout the webinar to see if I'm going over material effectively. And I will also have more polls later on in this webinar. Surveys for the staff for when I do pass out the Family Connection Kits to see the staff and families' experiences. The pre and post test will be the same as the polls. And also with tracking the kits, I would see if the kits are a good start for the families to enjoy them. As of now, I'm going to do another poll question. So for right now, this question states, during child development, the child progresses from blank on their parents and guardians to leaning towards blank. And you can pick which one reflects the question. So most of everyone got it right. During child development, the child progresses from dependency from their parents and guardians to leaning towards independent. Now I'm going to do another polling. So looking back at the annual CASA report, what percentage of children were adopted? So the correct answer was 28%. 28% was the percentage of children that were adopted. And then I'm going to do the last polling question. So out of the attachments that I discussed, which had the highest percentage in alternative care? Okay, so the answer to this question was actually secure. globally, the secure attachment is what children has the attachment style. And now I'm going to leave the room for any questions.
If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, or there's a little hand that you can raise for any questions and we can unmute you. You must have done a good job, Shannon, with no questions. You want to go to the last question, the last poll question?
Yes. Do you think a family connection kit will be beneficial for you and your CASA kiddos when visitations start again? That's great to see that the family connection kit will be beneficial. I would hope to implement them later on. So I have one question. Will you be connected with CASA over the time for the results of your evaluations? Yes, now that when my internship ends, I am going to be a volunteer, so I would still be dealing with CASA. Are there any other questions or any comments? They're all welcome.
We had another question in the chat box from Holland, wanting to know if you're going to be a volunteer or as a CASA with other tasks, but I believe that you're going to be an awesome CASA volunteer. So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sharon.
All right.
I'm going to leave my email. If there are any other questions, you can send to my email and I will be sure to answer them for you. I left it in the chat box, so if you can take a look if you have any other questions.
I think there's one more question from Holland. She wants to know, what have you learned during this process?
During the in-service or during the whole CASA experience? For the in-service, I found that the secure attachment was the most attachment that a child has. And for me, I thought it would be resistant, but I was surprised about that piece of information. that I've learned so far. And I also learned different programs are to help children that are in care as well that I didn't know about before.
We did have one other question from Rick. It looks like he's asking, is the other program similar to Babies Can't Wait required?
Yes, it is similar. It just goes up to the age 5 instead of age 3, like Babies Can't Wait. If there aren't any other questions, I thank y'all for participating today. Oh, one more question. Holland, I'm not sure, but I can definitely research and see how other locations compare to the ones that are in Statesboro. And I can find out that information for you. Again, I want to thank everyone for participating.
Thank y'all for joining. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. But if you have any questions for Shannon specifically, just give her a shout to her email address. Y'all have a good day.